I think that Cardiff accent, mate, and I'm speaking as someone who's got one, but not like I used to. It's one of those accents that doesn't lend itself to people thinking you're intelligent.
It's a simple game, boys. You need to put the ball in the back of the net, boys.
Put your laces through it.
I used to hear a lot of that playing for Command in Town.
Clear lines.
Out! Get rid of it!
Get rid of the one thing you need to score goals.
Imagine
having a game of darts and just throwing your darts to the side of the hockey. Get rid of it!
Oh my gosh, I mean, I could watch this man speak all day. This is...
You love him, don't you?
I do love him. This is Craig Bellamy. It's a chunk from a long-form interview he did for Sky this week.
You go into a smaller footballing nation.
No.
No?
No, I disagree with that.
Start that again, Dave.
Yeah. No matter who it is, we're going there to win. Now, that's my psyche. I don't know if it's realistic or not. It's naive. No shirt swapping.
Why?
Because you've worked too hard for that shirt. Don't think you're good enough to give it away. You're responsible. You know what's good for you, you know what isn't. The freedom of being able to play and the enjoyment I want you to have is the most important.
I think Craig's always had these misconceptions around him because he's apologies, Craig, because he was a really angry bloke and because he didn't really think a lot of the time before he said stuff, or he didn't care about the consequences of saying stuff. So I think that
I think the Finland post-match interview is a good example of that.
Yeah, exactly.
He is angry, justifiably, that Wales have lost to a poor team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I loved it at the time.
Oh, absolutely.
That's two poor teams, mate.
Two poor teams.
Yeah,
But I think that because of that, the fact that you could have really long, clever conversations with him about football tactics was completely ignored. And I don't think that was the stuff that people didn't want to hear or weren't interested in hearing. Your editors would just be like,
I think that
bit
Cardiff
out.
accent, mate, and I'm speaking as someone who's got one, but
Yes.
not like I used to.
Yeah.
It's one of those accents that doesn't lend itself to people thinking you're intelligent.
Well, and I think the area of Cardiff
is
he's
bollocks.
from is that there's a snobbiness towards Tremorva.
100%.
Sort of that bit of Cardiff. And I think that there's a snobbishness, towards football intellect as well.
Only in this country, curiously. Not in Europe.
Oh, okay.
In Europe, I read one of Jonathan Wilson's books about this. So, for instance, in Central Europe, places like Austria in the 30s, you'd have philosophers discussing the relationship between the individual and the state and then whether teams should play 4 or 5 at the back. And it was kind of because they saw football in the same way you might see chess. But we've never really intellectualised football in this country in the same way.
I think we have in academic circles, but I think that then when a footballer who is working class
I think that's
talks
very
about
unfair,
people go, oh, what's he on about? And you just a little snippet where he starts
It's a
talking about
simple game, boys. You need to put the ball in the back of the net, boys.
Put your laces through it. Got a one dead more, boys. Out we go.
Have you got the bottle required to play at the highest level, boys?
Kick it out to the back. What are you doing, boys?
Hear a lot of that playing
Boys,
for Command in
man.
Town.
Clear lines.
Out!
Boot it off. Like, boot it off. Boot it. I heard a parent shout that the other day.
Boot it. Just
boot it off.
The lack of finesse in boot.
Boot.
Get rid of it!
Whatever you do now,
Get rid of it.
It's going to cause you psychological damage for the rest of your life unless you listen to this one simple command.
Get rid of the one thing you need to score goals.
If the ball was in about 40 yards of the goal, a load of dads, get rid of it! Out!
Shoot! Chill.
Imagine having a game of darts and just throwing your darts to the side of the hockey. Get rid of it!
Just really fast, get rid of all 3.
Get rid of them quick.
Yeah, there we go, good. But it is, that
He's
is
a deep
the
thinker
advice.
about football, Bellamy.
Yeah.
He's a deep thinker. That tiny bit where from where he talks about the Netherlands 1974 team, and then he goes through a couple of other teams. And if you think about his coaching at
he talks about the
Burnley,
Saki team, the great AC Milan team of the late 80s with the sort of 3 Dutch players,
Because I couldn't hear what he said there. I had to listen to that 3 or 4 times to work out what he was talking about. But you look at the stuff he did with Vincent Kompany. You know, at Anderlecht, when they were there, they had... when Schmeichel was playing in goals, they had him playing right back in possession. So there was a couple of games where they lined him up as a right of a centre 3 and no one in behind that at all because his crossfield balls were better than anybody else. So for the entire game, he set up when they were in possession as a right back.
lopsided.
Just so 3 of them at the back. So further up the field, the rest of the players, he was the right side of a back 3. No one in behind them then. And they were just like, well, we've got the ball. We've got the ball. This is what we do.
He's also said, certainly in the early interviews he gave when he was Wales manager, when he'd just been appointed as Wales manager, if it goes wrong or we concede because of something I've told you to do, I'm not going to blame you because that was my idea, and so
that's what Sherratt says down at Cardiff Rugby, and that is massive for playing. Because how can you expect someone to play with flair and how can you, when you talk about going to the World Cup and just enjoying themselves, enjoy football.
Yeah, right? I think that's what the 2016 team did in Dinan. They were enjoying it. I
love all that bit about turn your phones off and we'll sit down for dinner together.
Yeah.
And we'll bond as a team.
Oh, absolutely.
One thing I think he's been lucky though is that the team that played against North Macedonia and the team that played against Liechtenstein at home are largely playing regularly for their clubs.
Yes.
And that's absolutely huge because even though I think that Bellamy is a far more tactically astute manager than Rob Page, and I think he's got more about him as a manager, most of Rob's team weren't playing regularly for their clubs. And then the problem is, because international breaks are so short, you've got to get your team up to speed.
Well, there's a question, Al, for you both.
And
you know a lot
if they're all fit and match fit and sharp, then you just work on shape and you just work on
because you both
tactics
know a
and
lot more about
formations.
football than I do. Would you rather a Premier League player in your side that is not playing regularly, but he's in a Premier League squad, or would you rather someone in a bottom of the Championship side who's
playing all the time
twice a week?
The Championship player,
is it?
Yeah.
Even though on paper that's at least not as good a player.
Yeah. Because I think even the very best players, and I've seen some of Wales' best ever players who aren't playing regularly because of injuries or stuff that's happening at their clubs. It might even be just personality clashes with managers. They're never the same, and they're never where you want them to be if they're not playing regularly for their clubs. When we did our interview with Sam Warburton, I found that so fascinating. I think that's one of the best things we've ever done, and it's one of the most thought-provoking interviews I've ever done with a sports person. Right now, as a big Wales football fan, up to the Bale and Ramsey era, the great moments were in my lifetime, beating Germany in '91. And then we beat Brazil in '91 in a friendly as well, beating Italy in 2002. I'm not quite old enough to remember us beating Spain 3-0 in '85. But so it would be Germany and Brazil and then Italy.
Yeah.
And every now and then you'd get these really big results where we would be a genuine contender and they would sustain you then when we were losing to Georgia and Moldova.
Germany before that World Cup when Ernie scored.
Yes, in the friendly. One of the first games at the Millennium Stadium. Yeah. Or on his debut, actually.
Yeah.
And there's that great picture, because Ernie's about 5'6" or 5'7", and he's trying to go nose-to-nose with Oliver Kahn, who's like 6'6".
Yeah.
And I always thought, as a supporter, if I turned up and we were the favourites, that would make me feel a little bit uneasy, because we often disappointed in the games where we were meant to be favourites.
Okay.
Whereas, for instance, Belgium at home in qualification for Euro 2016 when Bale scored and we won 1-0. Or even in that campaign we drew 0-0, didn't we, out in Brussels?
Yeah.
Like, they were the games I would walk to the ground feeling fairly confident, whereas Cyprus away, it's hot, bumpy pitch, we huffed and puffed, we ended up winning 1-0, Bale scored ahead. They were the games I was worried about. And I always thought psychologically, as a Welsh person, that we were better as underdogs, because we were better with our backs to the walls. And I remember talking to Danny Gabardon about that. He was like, no, I don't buy that at all. And Sam said, I think that's because I said this to Sam. I don't know if you remember. He said, I used to find that attitude insulting because I have sacrificed everything to be a rugby player.
See,
And I've sacrificed everything to be a rugby player since I was
a fan and a player,
6 or 7.
Yeah.
And if you're, I don't know, if you're Harry Wilson, he's exactly the same. Or Sorber will be exactly the same. So you don't want to turn up at the ground and for all the fans to think, well, best of luck, boys.
Yeah, it's easier for a fan.
I'm a professional footballer.
It's easier for a fan to go into big games thinking we're underdogs.
Sure.
Because then your expectations are lower. You're not expecting to win.
Yes.
And if you lose, it sort of softens the blow a little bit.
Sure.
Right. But if you're a player that does you no favours, you don't need a manager saying you're underdogs. They're playing.
No.
Well, I remember seeing Gareth Bale interviewed after the 2016 Champions League final. It goes to, I think it was the one they won on penalties against Atletico. And Gareth's interviewed after that, and he's just obviously won the Champions League. And whoever's interviewing him says, and then off with Wales for a few weeks at the Euros. What are your hopes for that? Going to enjoy it, with the Wales squad? He's like, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to win it.
Yeah.
And that, I think the sort of perception of how could you possibly change your mentality from being a Champions League winner to then going and dicking about with your mates in Wales, which is what the sort of attitude was. And Gareth's attitude was always, why would I be going and joining up with Wales if I'm not going to try and win it?
Yeah. Because I've won everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just won the Champions League like a minute ago. I scored a penalty in the shootout, despite having cramp in my legs. I'm quite good.
Yeah.
I think that patronising attitude is still there. Yeah.
He is a very patriotic bloke, Craig. And I suspect and I fear that there was a time in the not too distant past when joining up with Wales was a bit of a jolly. And it absolutely isn't a jolly now. And to be honest,
I bet the players love playing for him, mate.
Yeah, and to be honest, as long as it's not a jolly, I can accept and forgive a lot because even though Craig would dispute this, country 3 million people, we're going to have a smaller playing pool than France or England or Spain or Germany or whatever. I've just always wanted us to get the best out of what we have. And if we're getting the best out of what we have, the campaigns that have really stung have been the ones where we didn't get the best out of a decent squad, and that has happened a lot over the last year. Certainly over my lifetime.
Imagine when Greece won the Euro.
Yeah, and Denmark.
Greek football.
Denmark won it in '92. Greece won it in 2004. Incredible. Yeah. And the thing with Greece, no one can ever name a single one of those players.
I couldn't name a team. I assume there's one in Athens. I don't know what it's called. It's probably called Athens.
Panathinaikos, Olympiakos. The Swans played Panathinaikos in the Cup Winners' Cup in 1989.
Loads of arrests in that.
So many arrests.
Loads of arrests.
It was chaos. Yeah.
We're here or over there?
Over there. It was carnage.
A lot of people stayed in Greece for a lot longer than they thought they were going
to. Yeah. We should do as a clip. There's the Wales Today reporters on YouTube. Oh, we were having a good time with the Greek lads, isn't it?
It's all gone off, it has.
And you don't see it as much anymore. The jumper over the face to mask your identity as you walk into court, but his jumper's covered in blood. We were having a good time with the Greek boys.